Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Sig and the Big. My name is Blenn. I'm going to be your resident big here. Rocking over with that cough with a scarf across his mouth there is going to be Siglin Wheeler. How are you doing tonight?
Just a little tickle in the throat.
Just a little tickle. Ooh. Someone got your attention there, or is it just a little seasonal bug? Maybe a little bit of both.
The heat and the cold changing.
Yeah, right. So yeah, we are sitting here at this time. What was yesterday? I think a high of 75. It's a fantastic day. Kind of, take your dog out to the park, have a picnic with the family type of motherfucking day. And then all of a sudden, bam, where are we at today? But I wouldn't call it a blizzard because the snow is just that like heavy, wet, sticky shit that kind of evaporates right away. But still, snow in April, right after a 70-degree day. It's not enough to throw anybody off there.
Annoying.
So, well, hopefully you recover here soon. And good thing you are, about 4 feet, not 6 feet away from Mr. Mike Shaw here, who's going to be joining it. Sig and the Big as probably our resident MLB analyst. You'll be seeing him on a lot of other productions as well. I am happy to announce as well that probably after this podcast drops here and definitely after we are recording it on Sunday, April 11th, Sig and the Big is going to be collaborating with Beers and Bullshit to host our first ever 2021 live NFL mock draft. Now, this is going to happen about, a couple of weeks before the actual NFL draft. But us three, along with a good buddy of ours, Jace, who you might have heard is out of Beers and the Bullshit, is going to be joining us. And the four of us are going to kind of split the NFL into, 8 teams apiece and just kind of kick it off on draft day. So, boys, how you feeling about that? We'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the draft. It'll be really fun just to, kind of make the pick how we think they should make the pick and try to help a little bit teams out here.
I've done a lot of research with my 8 teams. I'm ready to go. I got some good value. I'm ready to be the GM of 8 squads and make hopefully 8 good picks.
I'm excited for it. And I picked this group specifically because I felt like it would be a good, diverse group. Obviously, Jace, you have is a very analytical person. Siglin's kind of a wild card. Mike and I have our own different styles. So I think it's going to be a good collaboration on the draft night. So I'm super pumped up for it because, I have been doing nothing but just obsessing about this. I think this is by far the hardest I've ever looked into any NFL draft before. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be absolutely fantastic here. But super excited to announce that once again. That's going to be Sunday, April 11th, starting live on Facebook, and then we're going to try to get it up on YouTube streaming as well, 6 p.m. So be there or be square. I know WrestleMania is going on this weekend, but if I'm going to miss out on that, then go ahead and tune into the podcast. Hell, fucking double stream it. Put the wrestling match on in the background. No one wants to hear Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole commentate for the 25th year anyway. So let's continue it on going, though. We are talking tonight MLB baseball. This was supposed to be our original episode, the debut episode of Sig and the Big, but with some technical complications, which happens in life. It's the 21st century. Computers are out to get us. So we're going to go ahead and be doing the re-recording here, bringing it in the second episode of the night. But just know Mike Shaw was supposed to be on the inaugural episode of Sig and the Big. So, Mike, we appreciate you coming back around here again to double time it.
Happy to be here, guys.
Rock and roll. So before we kind of break down everything, we're going to talk about the 2020 MLB season and then going into what, we're probably 5 or 6 games into the 2021 MLB season. But first, I think we got to talk about probably the craziness that's going on today because we are just days removed from the MLB All-Star game getting announced that is relocating to Denver, Colorado from Atlanta, Georgia. To kind of summarize, political opinions are not going to be very well, set on this show. We're going to be kind of neutral, unbiased with sports, but it's obviously something we're going to cover here with the voter ID laws that are going to be passing in Georgia. Obviously, there's 2 sides of the fence, 2 extreme sides to that fence. Regardless, though, on one side of the fence made enough attention, enough to get the All-Star game moved out of Atlanta. I can't remember something political influencing sports like this in a long time. Siglin, what about you?
Yeah, no, I was completely blown away by the news. It took me by storm, and the fact that it's coming down from a political decision on why they're moving a game is kind of crazy, and it's kind of a slap in the face to Atlanta because the reason why the game was supposed to be there was they were honoring Hank Aaron.
So, yeah, Mike, what do you think about that? Obviously being a big baseball fan, baseball historian, you're our baseball guy. We were supposed to be honoring, Henry Hank Aaron, a year, just months after his death, obviously the game getting moved out of there, but still planning on doing the celebration. It's kind of weird, don't you think? Like once again, it's a political move from an organization that's not really been all that political in the past.
Yeah, it's a lot to get into with the politics, which I'm not as knowledgeable on. So I don't really feel like I want to speak on that, with the voter laws and everything. But it's a great opportunity for Colorado. The Rockies still a fairly new franchise. Coors Field has been open for 25, 26 years now, and this will be its second All-Star game. The last one was in 1998. So I think it'll be just really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, with Coors Field, I think that's one of the things I'm a little surprised they haven't done another All-Star game from there, especially because it's the stadium by far that gets the most home runs hitting it every single year. Obviously, because of elevation, because of the make of the stadium, everything is just made for offense there. So it's kind of crazy that this is just the second time that we're seeing the All-Star game come to Colorado, and I don't think that either of us really have a side on the politics. It's just crazy to see it affect the sports like this. Because the NBA is a very, politics-driven league, but I think you've seen the NFL have a stance on things, but it's more just like staying in line with what it's been. Baseball's always been relatively quiet. You don't see really baseball and hockey kind of making much noise out there in the world. So, yeah, a little nuts to be seeing that. Kind of everything's still up in the air. Atlanta's still fighting for the All-Star game. We'll see what happens. Could be that this all washes over in 3 days, when this is probably released, and, it was just a blip on the radar. But if it goes to Colorado, I know for sure there's one thing for certain. I'm going to try to get you some tickets.
I think we're all in that boat.
Yeah. So even to just home run derby, celebrity All-Star game, I'd do the celebrity All-Star game. I'd buy tickets for that one just to be at Coors Field again.
Yeah, I get to see Mike Trout, DeGrom, all of them on the same field. It's a pretty special night.
It would be a blast.
It'd be fantastic just to go out there and just watch the All-Star game. But anyways, that's just kind of something big we had to cover. I feel like if you're doing a baseball episode right now, it would be a little unjust to not even just talk about what's going on. But nevertheless, enough politics, enough bullshit about the real world. Let's break down some fucking baseball. And just to kind of recap what baseball is, if you are listening to the episode and you are wondering, you are probably the one person who came across this episode wondering, what's baseball? Well, baseball is the most magical of Americans' pastimes. It started in the 1800s. There's different origins about how the game started. Some believe it was started by farmers in Cooperstown. Others believe it was started by soldiers, for the Union. When they were down fighting in the South, they had to pass time somehow during the Civil War. There's a bunch of crazy stories from the origin of the game, but it was definitely America's probably first most popular sport. Coming up, I think we all played baseball. We've all at least been involved in it some way, but somehow over time it's kind of weaned off a little bit, but still a rather exciting sport that can prove unpredictable, as we kind of saw last year with the 2020 season. I'm going to kick it over to you, Sig, just kind of with a little bit of a breakdown of the 2020 season from what you saw.
It was a blast. In a time where we had no sports, they kind of gave us a bunch of sports at once. Like every day you had 2 or 3 baseball games you could watch. And there was always something going on at that time when you didn't have basketball. You didn't have any news on training camp. We didn't have the same type of draft that we would have had last year. So when they came in with the condensed schedule last year, I enjoyed it a lot. And as a new baseball fan and coming into it, that was a great way for me to start it off and get a good sample size of a lot of teams.
Yeah, that 60-game season was just so different. How about the first time the National League having the DH ever? So as an NL fan, that was really cool, actually, just to see how the game is not that much different as you might anticipate with the DH in the lineup every day. And it's just 9 professional MLB hitters instead of 8 in the lineup. And actually didn't add that many more runs. It's just a good way to get opportunities and more at-bats for maybe some of your younger guys, or maybe even some older guys that are not as great in the field anymore, but they still have a good bat. You can keep them in the lineup when you have the DH. So, yeah, the 60-game season was just super fun. It made every game so much more exciting, almost like a football schedule where every game matters so much because there's only 60 where normally there's 162.
Well, and that's the thing is, they call it the dog days of July and August for a reason in baseball, because it just seems that 162-game season, it just drags on. That when you get to the meat of it, you get to the real center, and even a little bit more into that from there, you're just kind of like, oh shit, like, is it still going on? And then you kind of pick up some more steam back again in September. You start watching for the playoffs in October, and everything's gravy from there. But yeah, last year was just this science experiment of a year. It's almost like you went into MLB The Show and set the season settings different. Like when you go into 2K and you set the season to 29 games, like anything can happen. And that's what we kind of saw in the MLB last year, because I pulled some stats from last year, and it's just kind of crazy to think about this here. So with the 2020 stat leaders, let's take a look here. So switched up on me, but switching up to the 2020 regular season stat leaders. In all of the MLB, Yu Darvish and Shane Bieber had 8 wins, and that led Major League Baseball. So still seeing like a 364 to DJ Matthew, or LeMahieu, from the Yankees. Just read that, didn't even pronounce it. With a 364, so not a bad batting average, but Luke Vogt for the Yankees led the league with 22 home runs. Jose Abreu with the White Sox led the league with 60 RBIs. You had 16 saves by Brad Hand for the Indians. Formerly the Indians. It was just a crazy year because you saw such low numbers. Like the leading leaguer in strikeouts, Shane Bieber, 122 strikeouts. So just very odd, very condensed numbers there.
Unfortunately, they haven't changed their name yet.
They haven't. I thought fuck them. I'm still calling them the Cleveland Baseball Team. Cleveland Baseball Association. What did they used to call them back in the days? They used to have some real professional ass names for the baseball teams too.
Oh.
I mean, I know they eventually turned into like the Athletics, but obviously there's like the Knickerbockers were a baseball team on top of being, the Knicks too at one point.
I know they used to call the Red Sox the Boston Red Stockings.
Yes, yeah, they were the Reds. Yeah, but then stockings became more of a female article of clothing. And so they were the Sox then after that, even though they already had the White Sox. So we could probably get into the history of baseball. There's so much interesting shit that used to go on in the history of baseball. It's loaded because you look at other major sports. I mean, the NFL probably goes back to the 20s, 30s. Baseball goes back to the 1800s, late 1800s, when you see guys like Cy Young kind of pitching. Honus Wagner, I think started playing in 1898, was probably his rookie year. So you see like really early days, guys pitching 60, 70 fucking games in a season. Wild times. But we're getting on track here. Oh, pop goes the weasel. But Mike, what's up?
Yeah, that's what's so cool about baseball is like it's always been 162 games. So that's why the numbers and the stats matter so much because you can compare Mike Trout's stat to Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth or Honus Wagner. It's comparable because they played the same amount of games. It's always been 9 innings. So that's would be one thing if people are kind of considering maybe shortening the season now, it'd take away from, all the historical records.
Yeah, because at that point you're talking about no one touching the home run record. Because even now, what's your maybe closest bet is what Albert Pujols somehow stays around for 10 more years, knocking in 20 dingers a year, and that fucking pops it. Because I think he's in the 600s now. But even then, he's still far off on the home run record.
Yeah, he's at in the 660s, and Bonds ended up with what, 740, 750?
I think it was like 763 or 765. Because I remember 755 was the record for the longest time. I remember watching the home run chase. Because unpopular opinion, I've actually shared it on the Beers and Bullshit podcast. I prefer the steroid era. I'm not saying that players should endanger their lives and their bodies to do steroids, but just objectively just looking at it, yeah, it was way better baseball to watch. Like I was just talking to my stepdad today. We were talking about before the podcast. Is in 1998 he got to watch the Sammy Sosa Mark McGwire home run derby that year because I believe the All-Star game was in Milwaukee or Chicago when he went to it when he was living by there. And he was like, it was just crazy. These guys were fucking huge. They were baseball player size back then. They were monstrous. And, it was clear as day what was going on. It's like, no, they're just working out a lot. Advancements in science and steroids.
Yeah, they were juicing. But watching Barry Bonds and McGwire crush baseballs 500 feet, it was fun.
So, controversial question here. What records matter more? Or I guess, have less of an asterisk on them. Anything from the home run era, so you're talking the home run record by Barry Bonds, multiple 500 home run guys, Rafael Palmeiro, Jose Canseco, all these guys, all their accomplishments have kind of been, grayed out or thrown with that little asterisk next to it. Or honestly, pre-segregation baseball. When you talk about like Babe Ruth, you talk about Lou Gehrig, you talk about all these star athletes who only ever had to play against white guys. Like, who do you actually honestly think faced less or more of an advantage in their time?
Pre-segregated baseball.
I think so too. I think Babe Ruth gets his ass kicked in modern day baseball. Not to say he wasn't a talented natural athlete, but he doesn't modify his training and diet, he's fucked.
Yeah, I think pre-segregation too. Just because, there's, how much now the MLB is white Americans, maybe a third. So there just wasn't as much competition as there is now. Now it's a world game.
Well, there's and this is supposed to show diversity. This is not at all a racial joke at all, but there was a commentator who said there's nothing more American than watching one white guy, 4 Mexicans, 3 Dominicans, and 2 black guys take a field to play America's game. And it's serious, like it's like that's how it's become. Like if you want to talk to splits, obviously the NBA is a very, very majorly, African American league. Baseball has turned very into just a diverse league. You see a lot of Latino Americans, a lot of not even Asian Americans, but Asians are starting to play in the game. You're starting to see a lot more of that, kind of Korean and Japanese, baseball interleaguing signal. I mean, what have you seen in probably the past 5 years of really getting into baseball? You've seen people like Yu Darvish and
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah,
I mean, he lit the world on fire. I mean, he came out pitching strikeouts and mashing home runs like no pitcher you've ever seen before. Like, yeah, a pitcher will get lucky every once in a while and get a good grip on one, but he was getting a good grip on more than just one. And he's fast, too. It's not like he's out there running at pitcher speed. He's running as fast as an outfielder would. Like, he's crazy freak athlete. And then you go around and look at some of these other Dominican Republic players that are coming into the league. So, yeah, the diversity is definitely there in baseball for sure.
So, I mean, the Dominican pipeline has been there for a while. You remember guys like Yasiel Puig, even going back all the way to Sammy Sosa. I mean, the influence of, like, the closer, probably Latino countries still coming through Mexico. But the Cuban baseball movement is probably something that I have really loved looking into because it kind of started with, like, Livan Hernandez. If you guys remember Livan from the Two Brothers documentary from the 30 for 30. And essentially, short synopsis of kind of what it is Livan... and God, what was the other one that started with an F?
There was Orlando Hernandez and Livan. Livan was the bigger guy.
Yep. So, Orlando was the older one who was kind of more the star in Cuba, and then Livan was like the young, hot, up and coming prospect. Decides to defect because they're in a baseball game in Mexico, and he just leaves his hotel, like just out of the hotel into like they travel like across Mexico because they're on like the east coast of Mexico. They travel like all the way up to like Tijuana or something like that. Get him into the United States on like an asylum visa or whatever because back then Cuban-American relations were not a thing at all whatsoever. And so it's just crazy that this guy left his whole. We go from a place where a guy left his whole life behind to pursue a dream to play baseball, and now it's like Cuba has a team in the World Baseball Classic, phenomenal team, It's awesome to see baseball just kind of become truly like the biggest integrated sport, and that's what it started at really with Jackie Robinson, not being the first integrated sport, but being kind of the most notable.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite parts about baseball is now in America, baseball probably isn't the number one most popular sport, but just getting to see the passion from countries where it is the number one sport, such as Japan, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, like that's their number one sport even over soccer. And so it's just cool to see the passion that they play with it. Be nice to see some more talent come from America.
Well, I think it makes it interesting on the World Baseball Classic stage because it's kind of like what hockey's got with the European nations. Obviously, in hockey, you're just going to see a little bit less pigment, let's say, because, all the European nations, you're talking about Russia, you're talking about Finland, who has decent players. And, a lot of that Eastern Bloc produces a lot of great players, the Ukrainians, the Yugoslavians. It's kind of crazy in hockey. There's a lot of diversity there, but you just don't see it because obviously a lot of people are the same skin color. Baseball, it's kind of a little bit different. You see a lot of white Americans. There's Canadian baseball players. There's not much coming obviously from an European pipeline, but then you start to get, a lot of, South America, a lot of, Central America, and then, obviously Asia starts having players come over too from Korea and Japan. And I think it's only time before it grows, obviously, cricket and baseball kind of becoming a bigger thing in India. Who knows when we see the next Indian superstar in the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think that would be fantastic to see someone come over and just see baseball truly be that global sport kind of below soccer, because obviously you really don't take down soccer when it comes to global sports.
You can't discount soccer. I mean, I love watching the World Cup. That's one of my favorite times of the year. But yeah, baseball, watching World Baseball is fun. I think if they made an Olympic sport, it'd be a blast just to see the team that USA would put together. Because I think that would kind of put some of like those superstars who don't necessarily go play on Team USA, they would want to go win a gold medal.
Like, it'd be cool to see the World Baseball Classic get to that level because you see a lot of star players opt out. But then, every year we have the Olympics. I mean, ever since 1992, the American Olympic basketball team, with the exception of 2004, that was just a very young team that won bronze in Athens. But every single 4 years, 92, 96, 2000, 08, 12, 16, 20, obviously, or not 20, but what would have been 20 was going to be a fucking loaded team. I look at the NBA now, and it's crazy to see like guys like Bam Adebayo not make the All-Star game and realize like, dude, Team USA is even smaller than both All-Star games. Like the talent that you could field, it'd be cool to see. Obviously, as we talked about, it's more spread out in baseball, but just be really cool to see. Like the Americans kind of have more players play for them.
Yeah, personally, the World Baseball Classic is one of my favorite events overall. The last one was in 2017, and the latest one was supposed to be this year, like right a couple months ago, but it got canceled because of COVID. But it's just such an exciting environment. Like I remember when Team USA played Dominican Republic, the game was in Miami, Florida, and it was definitely a pro Dominican crowd, and it was just the most rowdy baseball crowd I've ever seen. They had these crazy horns and flags, and they were just had so much passion, kind of like an international soccer game. And they ended up beating Team USA that game. But it was one of the coolest baseball environments I saw, just with the excitement from the fans. So looking forward to that. I believe it's going to happen next year, the next World Baseball Classic.
Take a look here, Siglin. Kind of final thoughts on that?
I'm just excited to see the next one. Like I said, as a fairly new baseball fan, I'm kind of new to all of these things.
Yeah, because the World Baseball Classic just started maybe middle 2000s, 2005-ish. So it's still a pretty new event. And yeah, the last one was the first time we saw some of the major stars take part, but usually the biggest superstars don't play.
I remember when they first announced the World Baseball Classic, I was pumped for it just because being a sports fan growing up, I kind of always wondered why, like, baseball didn't feature in the Olympics. I mean, I knew why football did because it's really just an American thing. But I always wondered, why do we have hockey feature in the Winter Olympics? Why do we have, basketball feature in the Summer Olympics? But why is baseball not in the Summer Olympics? Why are we not taking a couple of weeks off from the MLB season to play baseball? You know what I mean? So that was kind of one thing I always, wondered as a kid. So when I first read the first article, it was just like, this is going to be absolutely fantastic. Yes. And the first year when America got shit on, I was like, okay, all right. There's a lot more talent out there. And especially like, in these, Dominican leagues, in the Cuban leagues, in the Japanese leagues, obviously it's easy as Americans for us just to discount that we have the best. But I mean, when it comes to baseball competition, I don't know. I'd like to start seeing some like cross promotion between champions, like how they used to barnstorm back in the days. Take like the the KBO champion, the Korean Baseball Organization champion, put them up against our World Series champion, put them up in a 5-game series and see what the hell happens. You know what I mean? Like that is what baseball used to be. It used to be the season, and the players would just barnstorm all off season long. They'd make these makeshift teams, rag up and team up all the all-stars and go play local teams from town to town to town to town.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool to see. It would help just grow the game, really.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's the big thing with baseball right now. It's just needing to grow the game.
Absolutely.
So, right on. Well, fuck it. I say we move on to the 2020 playoffs. Like I said, crazy-ass year. We saw the expanded playoffs for the first time. We saw the playoffs go from 10 teams to 16 teams. So, Stiglin, I know you were a hell of a fan of playoff because obviously you go to the NBA playoff format here.
I loved that. That was absolutely one of the most exciting times. That's what made me become a big fan of baseball, because it was on all day for 4 days straight, 3 games a day. I absolutely loved it. The A's versus Sox, that was a great battle. You had Houston going against Minnesota, kind of expecting what we thought was going to happen. New York beat Cleveland. I mean, Giancarlo Stanton was crushing bombs.
Yeah, he was.
Just blasting them. And then you have Fernando Tatis go and just hit some of the nastiest home runs against the Cardinals. And then you got the Dodgers, who just kind of ran through their division. And then the biggest shocker to me, though, was the Marlins coming out and winning against the Cubs. That was a game I did not see coming around.
Yeah, I'm sure not many at all picked the Marlins to win the playoffs, but that 60-game season sure was crazy.
Well, yeah, because you saw the Marlins coming at not even like the 8th seed. They were the 6th seed. So, I mean, they shocked some teams. The NL had a lot of teams below 500 because the way the playoffs kind of went is you had the Dodgers as the obvious first seed going up against the Brewers. At the 4-5 matchup, you had the Padres versus the Cardinals. Then you had Cubs-Marlins, the 3-6, which Miami swept with a 2-0 win because it was just 2 games in the first round. Best of 3 series. And then you have the 2-seed Braves going up against the Reds, which they swept. So pretty even first round besides that Marlins matchup there.
Yeah, it was a really exciting playoffs. Be interesting to see if the MLB looks to expand the playoffs similar to how it was during the short season last year. But yeah, just super cool to see guys like Randy Rosarina break out for the Tampa Bay Rays and have them be that close to the World Series against the stacked Dodgers. So the Rays were probably the team I was most impressed with.
Didn't he set a record?
Yeah, Randy was setting all sorts of records with his hitting, and he was a guy that never really played full time in the majors before last year. So he's still eligible as a rookie this year. So look for Randy Rosarina to win AL Rookie of the Year.
Kind of a little juiced up there because something we talked about last time that I'll bring up here is service years do not get counted from last year, which is kind of wonky because if you're not familiar with the concept of service years, essentially the way MLB free agency works is you get service years for how much you play in the pros because you can be sent up and down and yada yada, so on and so forth. But say you make your debut and you are consistently in the pros, you have to serve 6 full years in the MLB before you can be a free agent. Now, they don't add to these years for playoff experience, anything like that. So if you are sitting here and your team, say, keeps you in the minors for the first month of the season they plan to call you up on, then they call you up, you come, you start tearing it up, you have fantastic. You have like 0.9 per, service years, but you still need 6. So 5 years later, when you're at 5.9 service years, you're still not eligible for free agency. You still have to go through the process of contract renewals and arbitration, which the first 3 years of your career, they practically own you. They dictate your salary and smile. Arbitration, you have a chance to fight it, but obviously we've seen some crazy situations play out in the arbitration courts. The breakdown of the process there is the team submits what they think you're worth, you submit what you think you're worth, and then an arbitrator decides which number is more logical. So you can shoot for the moon, you can try to shoot for something logical, but it's led to a lot of bad blood situations. You can try to negotiate before then, but it's just crazy how it ends up working. But like I said, that was a little wonky with last year. Sorry to go on a mini rant here, but fuck MLB services. I hate the concept.
Yeah, especially with the comments we saw come out from the owner of the Mariners, where he just really was talking about the players like they weren't people and just how they are trying to be as cheap as possible and not necessarily put all their resources forward to try to win baseball games, which is what the fan base and what's the whole point is to win the games. But it was just kind of disgusting to hear the comments. If you haven't seen him, go look him up. I don't remember his name, but he's the owner of the Seattle Mariners, who have been kind of tanking for the last, 4 or 5 years. So yeah, the service time manipulation is bad for the game because if you have a young man that's 20, 21 years old and is ready to play in the major leagues, call him up because it's the best thing for your ball club to win games. So overall, just makes the game better when, the best players are out there.
It definitely does. And the other thing about that is like how he was bringing up the Mariners. The Mariners are really screwing like a couple of kids who are going to be great at the game. Like Jared Klenick, he is an absolute stud on both sides of the field. He could probably end up being a 5-tool player. And they want to continue to call him down in the minors, even though he was smashing the spring training.
Yeah, Kalenick's going to be one of those guys like Cole was talking about that will get called up after about a month, so this year doesn't count as a full year of service time. But watch out for him. He's going to be a beast in the MLB.
Yeah, May 1st call-ups, watch for him.
Yep, all the great ones have got called up on that day.
Yep, Mike Trout made his debut April 30th. Angel pulled the same shit. So obviously they ended up having to pay him in the fucking long run. Anyways, we paid him with, I think, 2 years left of arbitration. It was his second arbitration year. We ended up paying him, but still. That's Mike Trout. Most players don't get that lucky. They have to wait till year 6, and then they end up going to free agency and then not being worth their contract. Or some players, if you break out late, man, you're hitting free agency like 30 years old. Yeah, and it's one thing, too, that's interesting to watch for is like some of the players that come from Latin America that maybe, didn't have as good of a life as Americans do. They're more likely to take a more team-friendly extension earlier. Like we saw with Tatis Jr., or there's been
Luis Robert
and Acuna, where it's like they'll take like 10 years, $100 million, which is $10 million a year, when they're really worth $25 million a year, but they get offered that after a year or two in the bigs, when they were making like $500,000 to $1 million. So they'll take the money quicker, which is better for the team. Whereas if they wait, like Trout, Arenado, Harper, then you get the big $300 million deals.
I think Trout was always going to get his deal though. But yeah, no, I hate seeing that because
well-deserved.
Yeah. Oh, well deserved. But I think you see this phenomenon in sports where like the average American is like, no, fuck them. Why do they make so much money? I'm like, do you realize how much the owners are making for, don't get me wrong, owning the team is one thing, but division of labor and everything, they're making fair wages for what they're worth. And then you just hate to see a player get undervalued like that. I mean, obviously it's nice for the team. It's, awesome to have a team friendly deal, but and Tatis, I'm not going to cry over the fact that he took 13 years for $330 million. But still, you want to see a kid get what he's worth at the end of the day. And oftentimes it can lead to, making money during your prime year, not making a lot of money during your prime years. And then you see what happens. Like, Tommy John comes around, and that's still one of the most deadly baseball, injuries of all time. We don't see it take out players anymore, but we definitely, Tim Lincecum is probably one person that comes to mind, ruined his fucking career.
Yeah. Yep. The arms are fragile. Once you lose your fastball, it's hard to be the same player as you were before the injuries.
Exactly. So make your fucking money. But let's talk about making money. Let's talk about the offseason. Because the Dodgers win the title. I mean, it was pretty fucking clean sweep through the playoffs. The Rays were a phenomenal story. They were great, but we'll kind of talk about what they did this offseason.
Kevin Cash, World Series MVP.
Yo, that was the biggest memory I have from the World Series is the manager Cash pulling Blake Snell when he was absolutely dominating the Dodgers' powerful lineup. And right when they take him out, the Dodgers start getting a bunch of runs. So probably a reason why Blake Snell's no longer a member of the Tampa Bay Rays.
Hands down. We'll just fucking switch it over because it's the fucking Padres, man. I think we waited a while last time to talk about the Padres, but dude, monstrous. So they went out this offseason. They get Yu Darvish, Blake Snell,
Casey Musgroves.
Keep it up. Yeah, Casey Musgroves goes.
I'm just going off of pitchers right now. Who'd they add for relievers?
Oh, they lost. They lost their closer though, right?
They did lose their closer.
Yeah, they lost the closer.
They lost Yates here to the Blue Jays.
Yeah. But
I mean, they signed Tatis to that 13-year extension. That's a fucking free agency signing in its own right. But
and then you sign Ha-Seong Kim, who is the next touted international prospect. Out at second base, he's playing some outfield this season so far for him.
Joe Musgrove. It's another pitcher that they added there.
Yeah, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, and Musgrove. That's quite the addition to bolster your rotation. Because everybody in the NL, especially in the NL West, it's how can you beat the Dodgers? So the Padres kind of went all in on acquiring some big time players to try to go head to head with the Dodgers. They got beat, and they get swept by the Dodgers.
3-0.
Yeah, they got swept by the Dodgers, and they know, the Dodgers have won the NL West 8 years in a row now. I know as a Rockies fan, the Rockies have never won the West. So, yeah, everybody in the NL is kind of having to measure yourself against the Dodgers because you're going to have to beat them if you want to get to the World Series.
Yep, that is for sure. And adding pitchers is what's going to help you do that the most. If you have some dominant starters that can go multiple innings and keep it a low scoring or even a scoreless game, that's definitely going to benefit them.
I mean, both teams are just absolutely fucking stacked. Like, the World Series title has to run through the NL West at this point. I like the Padres just because of the little man thing. I grew up watching the Padres just suck ass for years and 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 years of fucking just terrible baseball. Just horrible baseball. So, yeah, it's nice to see him as a powerhouse. It's kind of like the Warriors. Like, I might be sick of it in 4 or 5 years and, laugh when they get their due comeuppance. But, man, I was on the Warriors bandwagon when it first started, man. And it's the same way with the Padres. You want to see a team that hasn't been that good be really good. You want to see them like with the Rockies. Anytime they made the World Series, they kind of started having to come up, a team that's traditionally just kind of been meh, especially with in baseball where you have smaller budget teams. You really want someone to just come up. And obviously the Padres are far from a small budget team anymore, but it'd just be nice to see somebody beat the fucking Dodgers.
Yes.
They finally opened the books up,
Yeah.
For a team that, they finally paid Machado, and then they're like, well, looks like we got something that's going to work here. Let's open the books up and try to make it work fully.
And not only opening up the books, but parting ways with capital to win now. Because getting Yu Darvish and Blake Snell, huge moves. But, I mean...
They did lose Luis Patino, though, who could eventually affect him later, because he could be a solid pitcher later on.
Oh, yeah. Well, once again, win now mode. You're trading prospects for rings is essentially the attitude behind it. With the Yankees tried to do it for years. Didn't catch up with them until 2010. So, they got 4 or 5 World Series titles out of it. I'd say trading, Brian Cashman would do it again, probably.
The Padres are doing the opposite of what Jeter did with the Marlins.
Well, Jeter, that was just fire sale to get a bunch of young players in so the owners can make money. Because if we're like the fucking Mariners owner, Miami's old owner was like that too before he ended up selling the Marlins because he was super cheap about the team. Who else? The Rockies owners are just like that. It seems like, because I feel like any time the Rockies start to put a good brand of baseball out there and start to have to pay a lot of money like they did the last couple of years, and then maybe it doesn't go out there with 1 or 2 seasons, then it's just cut the fucking bait and try to just make whatever money we have off of people coming to the stadium for an afternoon off.
Could you imagine, though, if the Marlins would have kept that 5 together with what they have now, and they would have had Giancarlo Stanton, Yelich, Marcell Ozuna, JT Realmuto, and
Fernandez.
I was about to say, let's assume Jose, maybe in this universe, Jose Fernandez doesn't pass away young. That's a World Series. That's a fucking winning team right there.
D. Gordon was an all-star back then too. I would like to see a 30 for 30 made about that Marlins team. What could have been?
That'd be a wicked 30 for 30.
That'd be a fantastic 30 for 30. What selling literally magic beans is what you probably have to call it, something around that. So yeah, Sigmund's counting it up here. You have like
five
all-stars.
I literally just had it in my head, and now it's gonna bug me all day until.
Because you had Yelich, Stanton,
Ozuna, Realmuto.
Yeah, fucking JT Realmuto fucking was there too. Oh my god,
D. Gordon,
monster team. God, how many prospects have they given up in their time? It's crazy to see teams do that, because then you look back and it seems like for 10 years, like all these major superstars, they end up with the the superstar teams that pay them. But then you look at the draft team, and it always seems to be the same ones coming up over and over and over again. Fielding these prospects, and maybe it's not their farm system putting it up, but I don't know. Hopefully the Marlins can turn their shit around, have another year like last year.
Yeah, the Marlins were a great story last year. I'd like to see them have some success, but that NL East is tough with the Nationals, Braves, Mets, Phillies. The NL East is tough.
The Marlins do have one of our favorite guys coming up, though, with the blue hair. Jazz
Chisholm.
Watch out. He's going to swipe a lot of bags.
Very athletic young second baseman that's debuting for the Marlins this year. Definitely an all-star caliber player.
Yeah, because the East, I think I had the Mets winning the East because they went out this offseason, obviously trading for Lindor. From the Indians. The Indians kind of in fire sale mode. We'll probably touch on that. But, yeah, the Mets, signaling win now mode. They weren't a bad team last year, off year, weird year. But you bring it back. Obviously, what's his name? Steve Cohen is there, and he's ready to spend money. I thought for sure it'd be getting like Trevor Bauer type money, but going out, getting Lindor, and then signing him to an extension too, still, good enough.
Huge. Re-signing Marcus Stroman. Great addition. They got an under-the-radar young pitcher that I like, Jordan Yamamoto, who was with the Miami Marlins. He'll be like their 4th or 5th starter, and then once big Noah Syndergaard comes back this summer, they'll be ready, I think, to go head-to-head with the Dodgers or Padres with a rotation featuring DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman at 1, 2, 3. It's a pretty great 1, 2, 3 you could put up there against anybody.
Yeah, definitely. He's pitching great this season already. But, man, if they would have got Bauer, Vegas would have had to figure out some odds, because it would have been tough to go against him after trading for Lindor, having the chance to sign Bauer. That would have been a tough team to go up against and would have been fun to watch. I would have way rather enjoyed Bauer in a blue and orange than a blue and white, but that's just my personal opinion, and he had other opinions, I guess.
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, that's a fact. I'm not really a fan of Bauer since he joined the Dodgers. Pretty unfortunate.
I'm a fan of him the way I was a fan of Kobe. I don't like him as the player, but I like the person.
Well, it's just all very Kevin Durant. Fucking join the goddamn national champions, like the world champions, right after they win a title, and you're like the best player on the market. I mean, not Durant levels, because Durant was like the 2nd best player in the world at that time, but
yeah, fuck. I remember hearing a story Bauer would tell his teammates. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago when I heard this, that he said he's not going to get married until he has at least 2 Cy Youngs. So now he has 1. Maybe we'll see if he gets that 2nd one.
Maybe that's why he moved to Los Angeles. Found himself a California girl. I guess if Katy Perry made a song about it featuring Snoop Dogg, there must be something special in the juice.
I mean, according to most of his teammates, he kind of already lives that California lifestyle too.
Bauer is an interesting character.
Yeah, he's a different pitching with one eye closed just to challenge himself or show up the other team, and he'll do the McGregor walk when he's on the mound. He is a guy who I think is good for the game, throwing it, making some 10-year-old kid sees him, look like he's having fun, showing some swag pitching. Maybe they'll try baseball. So yeah, I think he's good for the game.
Last year for spring training, he showed up in an all decked out McLaren 270 or 720, whatever it is. It was sick. And then everyone else is just driving like nicer trucks.
I think this is what baseball needs is more of a personality because like in the late 90s, they had so many personalities. I was watching a Vice video the other day and they brought up John Rocker. Fucking John Rocker was this big old, like 6'7", just humongous 100-mile-an-hour throwing fastball, just asshole. Got in trouble for just being a hothead, saying some racist shit, just being fucking just out there. I mean, just a huge personality in sports. I mean, you love him or hate him. I wasn't a huge fan of him personally, but a fan of, like what players like that bring to the game because they bring the attention. Like even the bad guys, the Draymond Greens in the NBA. Like the NBA is so popular now because of the personalities there. Players are able to, have stories going into games and everything like that. And that's one thing that baseball has always been a storyteller's game. And I think it's missed some of that. It's missed, that's why the bat flips are awesome for the new generation, The old generation can kind of fuck off with it, because other sports have advanced past baseball. And I think baseball now needs to look at itself and advance back up. Because once again, when it comes to drafting a story out of the game, nobody does it like baseball.
Give me the bat flips. I want them all. I want pitchers to celebrate after getting a clutch strikeout. Bases are loaded. I want them to scream at the guy after striking him out. I love that. That brings intensity. That shows you have passion. That shows you love what you're doing and you're having fun. And when you're having fun, you're going to enjoy what you're doing. And if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to produce a better product, I feel.
Agreed. Give me all the bat flips. Unless if you're losing by more than like 6 or 7, then maybe
don't be a dick.
If it's you have to do it in the right moment.
Swing at a 3-1 ball. I don't care.
Yeah.
Mash it.
Them Jose Bautista bat flips going on. Speaking of Toronto, though,
it's all about Timmy Anderson now. Best bat flip in the game
with the White Sox.
Throws that thing.
So I love Tim Anderson's bat flip. But Bautista brought it back, though. You got to show respect to the OGs because, I mean, before that, sure, people were doing it. But, man, he was the one who,
he was cranking them.
Yeah, cranking them off, about to hit motherfuckers in the stands. I think they put up a net at, I always want to call it the RCA Dome because that's what it was called in, the early 2000s. Whatever, the Sky Dome up in Toronto, wherever they play. Yeah, I think they had to install a net because one of them actually, came a little close one time and someone was freaked out about it. So, I don't know. I respect to Jose Bautista, even though fucking Rufin Odor knocked his ass on the fucking field. That is still the cleanest hit. Actually, no, second cleanest. Nolan Ryan is the cleanest punch in baseball. How he just fucking got Robin Ventura in a headlock and just started going to fucking town on him. Just beat the piss out of him. 42-year-old Nolan Ryan throwing some head heat. He's like, I'll still kick your ass.
And strike you out.
It's the greatest sports highlight of all time.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan. Such a G.
The greatest baseball sports highlight of all time will always be Randy killing a bird.
Randy Johnson fucking obliterating a pigeon.
You can't script that. It'll never be done again in our lifetime, I believe. The odds of it are over 1 in a million, and he obliterated that thing. Absolutely ended its life.
Well, that just fits Randy Johnson. We were talking about this the other day. I think, was it you and me or was it Lane and I? We were talking about, Lane and I. We were talking about how Randy Johnson looks like Randy Johnson. If you were going to, a guy named Randy Johnson, if you pictured a guy named Randy Johnson playing baseball. You looked at that guy and
you're like, that's just Randy.
Yeah, 6'10", 195 pounds, fucking beanpole, rocket thrower arm, mullet, mustache. He looks like a Randy Johnson. And if you think of one player besides Babe Ruth, so I'd say the number 2 player I would pick in history to hit a fucking bird with a baseball, it would either be Babe Ruth or Randy Johnson. Just one of those players, because Randy Johnson to me when I was a kid was the most intimidating motherfucker out there. Because what was it? Little Big League, when he's that kid plays the manager of the Twins.
Yep.
Or he takes over as owner of the Twins and then makes himself the manager after his grandpa dies, who is the fictional owner in the movie. And so essentially, long story short, Cinderella miracle season, they go into this, one last final wild card game against the Mariners, who at the time have Ken Griffey Jr., I think Alex Rodriguez, and Randy Johnson. So in that movie, I'm like a young kid, and Randy Johnson is just made to be like the most intimidating final boss looking motherfucker out there. And for the rest of my life, I was just like, I do not want to get pitched to by Randy Johnson. Still to this day, man's like probably 62 years old. And I'm just like, I do not want to get pitched to by Randy Johnson.
You saw what he did to the bird? Case closed.
Yeah, game over. Yeah, Randy's the only person. Well, actually, he's not the only person to ever murder somebody out of a baseball field, because the last person to die in baseball died in 1949. That's when they started making helmets legal. Fun fact. Also, God, who was his name? One of the first African-American catchers, Roy Campanella, actually ended up losing his eyesight in one eye because he took a ball to the head in a baseball game one time. Ended his career. Because he was an all-star. He just got signed over by the Dodgers. But he's, like 7-8 time Negro League all-star. Ended up playing a handful of years in the majors. But yeah, when he was playing with the Dodgers, just one to the head, man. Fucking done.
Was he catching or batting?
He was batting, I think, when it happened to him. Yeah. Because he was a catcher, naturally. But yeah, I think he was batting when it happened, if I remember right. I used to have this old baseball book that just like went over just like fucking random shit that happened in each decade. It was like 10 pages to each decade, and I would just sit there and just read the son of a bitch, and I remember that one from that.
Wow, I never heard about that.
We had a friend at Central who took one. He was pitching, and he took a liner just straight to the dome. Knocked him out cold. He was out of school for like 3 days.
Yeah, I was actually warming up in the bullpen when that he got hit, and it was one of the nastiest sounds. It was like a 2x4 smacking against the sidewalk. Bounced right off his head.
It's fucked up, but it's kind of a clean sound to anybody, because I've seen kids get hit in the fucking heads with baseballs before. Like our fucking I literally had just switched over to shortstop when we were playing in the majors, so 12 years old, whatever. So not that hard, as like high school fucking game, but yeah, literally just switched from third to short. Kid who they were grooming, who was younger than me, because it was my last year playing, and he was supposed to play third the next year, so he's sitting there fucking playing third, not 2-3 pitches into the fucking at bat, and this kid lines when he fucking misses it with his glove, knocks him clean the fuck out. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, whoops. I was like, God damn it, that fucking sucks.
That could have been my ball.
Just walk off the field.
No, I did run over there and try to throw the guy out at first. I missed him barely, but then I was like, are you all right? But I mean, players got to play, man. Shooters got to shoot. He'll still be down on the ground in 5 seconds for me to check on. So,
Hey,
injuries are temporary. Winning is forever. Okay.
Based on our story from Beers and Bull, they know what kind of player you are.
Yeah.
Leave it all out there.
Leave it all out there. I don't give a fuck who's in the way. Yeah. I'm going to hell for that one, but whatever. Eyebrows, I'm sorry, wherever you are. I probably shouldn't call her Eyebrows anymore. It's probably really, I think her name was like Kayla or something
I
like that.
couldn't even tell you what her name was, but still one of my highlights.
There's only one other memory I have of her, and it's not a glorious one, so I'm not going to share it. Unfortunately, she got sick on a church trip one time. Not the greatest thing ever. We were driving like fucking 17 hours. I'm like, I'm not going to share it. Never mind, I'm going to share it. We were driving like 17 hours to visit, what was it? Like fucking Indiana Wesleyan University. Essentially, it was a free trip from our church, and they were like, "Hey, if you're a senior and you want to go visit a Wesleyan college that our church is like partnered with, go." So all I heard was my parents will pay for me to go on vacation for 4 days. Game. That's essentially what it was. We just went there. We only had like attend like 2 classes over like the 2 class days that we were there, and then the rest of the time was just fucking around at like the university center. But I remember that. Unfortunately, we're like driving through Chicago. Poor old girl got sick in the back of the van. It's not good when there's 12 people in a passenger van. Yeah, no. There's no windows to fucking roll down besides the front window. So
you just cruising in a Sprinter.
Oh, I think I might have passed out at one point.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel bad for you, but man, she just has on our podcast not the best track record.
Get fucking sued for defamation. I'm like, no one fucking listens to this. I'm like, we're not even famous. Don't famous people get sued? Little people don't get sued. I can't afford to be sued. They're like, come to court on Tuesday afternoon. I'm like, motherfucker, I got work. Sorry, I don't have, people who get sued don't have work. That's why they can go to goddamn like court dates at 11:30 on a Monday morning. Yeah, I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, hopefully she doesn't listen to the episodes where she's mentioned.
Hey, I mean, hopefully she doesn't have a unibrow and won't think she's eyebrows.
Well, I thought she would color eyebrows because she had no eyebrows because she'd pick them off and eat them. That's the worst reputation one right there, probably. Fuck me. I just said that one. Oh, well. Whatever. Speaking of eating eyebrows, the White Sox hired Tony La Russa this offseason. Because, nothing says I like to eat my own eyebrows like hiring the fucking crypt keeper to come back from his 15-year retirement. I remember, how long has La Russa been out of baseball? Because he was with the Cardinals, obviously, for the longest goddamn time. The Athletics before that. I mean, shit. I honestly forgot he was still alive. Like, with all the celebrities dying in 2020, this is fucked up to say, but I honestly, when they announced the signing, I'm like, not gonna lie, thought he was fucking dead. He was one of those guys I just
thought I skipped over that one.
Yeah, like Joe Torre. Like, Joe Torre's still alive, and I'm just like, oh, good for him. That's fantastic. Baseball players, like, kind of, or managers specifically, just like fucking drift off into the sunset. I remember when Jim Leland retired. He was like 79 years old. You never heard from him again.
Tony is confirmed 76 years old.
Yeah. Imagine that. We're looking to the future of this program.
How are you?
We're hiring a guy who's been on Social Security for 13 years.
We're going to hire a guy who we don't know if he's going to have a heart attack out there from getting too excited, but that's a chance we're willing to take.
I mean...
Yep, been out of the game for 10 years. Yeah, does have 3 World Series, though. 2 with your St. Louis Cardinals.
So, yeah, it says here,
If
I would have just looked in front of me, it says he has managed since 2011, so 10 years. But he actually had his first manager's role with the White Sox back in 1979.
I did not know that.
Yep, shout the fuck out to 42 years ago.
Journeyman.
Yeah. So what did Justin Timberlake say? What comes around goes around.
Can't get rid of Tony.
Yeah.
He got a DUI, and there's a funny, well, not that funny, but the clip of him, he said, I'm a Hall of Fame baseball man. I can't get arrested or something like that. So there's some speculation maybe the Sox will let him go.
How does a 76-year-old get a DUI? Don't you have someone that drives you around at that point?
I don't know, probably just driving past 7. Period. He's 76 and he was retired. Well, actually, like, he was still technically retired at the time. He wasn't doing active coaching.
Yeah, I saw a cool moment when the White Sox were playing the Angels this past weekend when he gave him and Albert Pujols were giving each other a hug. Because Pujols still on the Angels collecting that bag, so it was just cool. Like, remember those guys 15 years ago were the dynamic duo.
Didn't he just hit a home run? Didn't he hit a home run that night?
Yeah, Pujols hit.
Yeah, Pujols has a couple on the year already. Pucci could rock out 30 home runs this year. The problem is he starts out really great because I feel like he spends the offseason in warm weather, getting all nice and young and shit. And then the baseball season, he has to be like one of our most consistent players because I will say this for Pujols. He is old as shit. And his game has declined, but god damn it, he doesn't miss games. He's there. He's batting 260, but he's there, And actually, like, I love Albert Pujols, so I'll still rock my Pujols jersey, obviously. I'm not going to say he's been a disappointment for the Angels. He hasn't been what we wanted out of his contract, but I mean,
you guys signed him at the latter end of his.
Oh, I knew when we were signing him to a 10-year deal it was a fucking mistake. Okay, like, once again, shouldn't say mistake. I knew it wouldn't. The ceiling was only so high on that one, and that wasn't very high at all for $30 million a fucking year.
Yeah, it's good to see him still out there though. He's playing first base with Shohei DH and more.
Oh, the fucking gels are killing it, man. Like, dude, Ohtani once again just fucking threw 100 in the first inning and then rocked out the bottom of the first and hit a home run. Same game. So Mike Trout, Rendon, obviously.
Did he hit 2?
That game, I think he just hit 1. He's hit 2 so far this season. That was his second this season. He's off to a little bit of a cold start at the plate. I think he's batting like 230 right now after that game. But once again, we're 5-6 games, and I ain't worried about shit. He's coming off of an injury, but it's just good to see him, on the mound, seeing that arm back at full strength. Maybe not full stamina, but it was cool to see him go 5 innings and, come out unscathed. He did go out for an injury, but after the game, they said everything was good.
Yeah, what a performance. Really rising to the occasion on Sunday Night Baseball, the only primetime game of the week, and pitching amazing and hitting a bomb and batting number 2 as a pitcher.
Incredible.
So, yeah, Shohei is probably my favorite player overall to watch so far this year.
He is so exciting.
Question here though, if he puts off all-star, maybe like bottom tier all-star, like the guy who like gets in as a sub, but is still having a good season. if he puts up those numbers at both pitching, like say he finishes with 15 wins, sub 4 ERA, respectable strikeout numbers, and he hits 280, 30 home runs, 80 RBIs. Is he like an MVP candidate at that point if he does both of that?
Yeah, I'd say so. He'd probably need to have great stats to win it, but he'll definitely be a candidate if he does both all year.
You would have to, but how crazy would it be if he went Cy Young MVP?
Ooh, first non-exclusive pitcher to win the Cy Young and MVP, because we've seen it happen with like Roger Clemens over time. Who was the last pitcher to win MVP?
I'd say Kershaw maybe.
I think it was Kershaw. Let's take a look here. Last pitcher to win MVP. So yeah, Clayton Kershaw.
Yep.
Comes up to an article of should pitchers win the MVP? It's complicated. I'm like, well, actually, technically, yeah. Because I feel like sports have usually the MVP is an offensive player, but they still have MVP and then offensive player of the year. So yeah, fuck it. Why can't a Cy Young winner, say fuck the system once in a while? Because you still have the Hank Aaron Award, you still have your Silver Sluggers and everything like that. Like you can anoint great hitters and great defensive players and great all-around players, but if a pitcher has a truly dominant season like Kershaw did, in 14 throwing, didn't he have like a sub 2 ERA that year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Probably like 20 wins.
Yeah, he averaged 6 innings to start 96 pitches. Where the fuck is his numbers at? Fuck it, whatever. They'll still be dominant again this year, so not really much to look at. I guess flipping over to the AL, though, I feel like that has a little bit more variety there because, the Angels are looking good so far. Obviously, the Astros are on fire to start the year. They kind of look like the 2019 Astros all over again, which is scary.
They're crushing balls, hitting home runs, and playing good baseball. We thought their pitching staff was going to be a little bit of a problem, and they're showing that their starters are going to go a little longer, and that might probably help them out in the long run.
Yeah, I'm not completely sold on their pitching staff, but I think their offense is good enough to carry them if Correa can get rolling. I saw him hit a 2-run shot to win the game for him this afternoon. Just kind of reminding everybody that he's still got it. But yeah, if Altuve can put together a year, maybe get Kyle Tucker or somebody to try to make up a little bit for the loss of George Springer, a huge loss there. But I think look for Yordan Alvarez, Correa, and Altuve to carry him.
Michael Brantley's even having kind of a hot start.
Yeah, we know Brantley's clutch.
Well, I was about to say both Uriel and Bregman are already batting over 400 to the year. Alvarez is batting 308. So, Yeah,
that offense is scary. But they're still cheaters, and none of us like them.
Yeah, still, fuck the Astros, man. I swear. My number one just hope, not even just because I'm an Angels fan, but it's just for anybody in the West to make sure that the Astros don't make the playoffs.
I saw, it was either yesterday or today, a fan in the right field bleachers at Angel Stadium threw a trash can onto the field at the Dodgers.
Fucking right. Good. You mean the Astros or the Dodgers?
The Astros.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, the Dodgers are good, but fuck the Astros for being cheating little bitches, because the Dodgers arguably would have 2 World Series titles if it wasn't for the Astros cheating scandal.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I'm just looking at the fucking playoffs here. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Yankees this year?
Fuck the Yankees.
I mean, always fuck the Yankees. It's like hating on like the Emperor and Star Wars.
Kluber. I think if he can get a little bit of a shine of what he used to be, that could be a big addition for him. I also think personally he's not going to try to turn it on until later when it really matters for himself.
Yeah. Kluber will probably have some short outings this year and just save gas he's got left for the playoff run. But I think the Yankees are going to win the AL.
They're deep.
Mainly because they're getting back some quality middle rotation pitchers like Domingo Hermann, a smaller right-handed pitcher that had one great year and then had some issues with the law and wasn't able to play last year. I think he's actually suspended by MLB for domestic violence, but he's back pitching for the Yankees. And then the lefty Jordan Montgomery, another solid starting pitcher. So I think with the addition of Kluber, that's going to be enough behind, of course, the big ace Garrett Cole. That'll be enough to carry the Yankees through the AL. We'll definitely need a rebound season, though, from one of the young stars like Gleyber Torres. which we're still not sold on if he can defensively handle shortstop. But showing that he can be a definitely MVP or elite hitter. Then Gary Sanchez, he's another guy that we've seen big power from, unlike many catchers ever. So if one of those two guys can rebound, they'll definitely come out of the AL.
That's the crazy part about baseball, man. You can see players just absolutely rebound because, like, someone we were talking about before the podcast, Nelson Cruz, started off kind of hot to his career and then he fizzled out, and then you see him kind of come back up again with the Rangers, and then he goes to the Orioles and he's kind of up and down. But, man, ever since he's been with the Twins for his 2 stints there, he's just been fire. He's been fantastic. I mean, we just looked it up today. He's 40 years old. He'll be 41 this year, and he's leading the AL in home runs to start the year with 3 through 5 games.
Yeah, he was born to be a Twin. He mashes in that ballpark.
Dude, absolutely. That left-hand power with that tall right field fence. The Twins just love their tall right fields, though.
He's right.
Oh, he's right? Okay.
Yeah. Old Nelson. Yeah, great DH for the Twins. Twins can all hit home runs now.
Yeah, that lineup is deep.
Sorry to all the Twins fans out there, but the stat of the day is that the New York Yankees have more playoff wins at Target Field than the Minnesota Twins.
That's a pretty good one. But the Twins are balling. Didn't they just put up like 15 runs the other day? Putting up astronomical.
Yeah, I was about to say they actually might have the highest with that output. They might actually have the Astros have put up 45 runs so far. The Angels have also put up 33, but they have the tied fourth most behind the Dodgers, Astros, and behind the Dodgers, Astros, and then tied with the Angels. So, yeah, fucking putting up numbers there, 33 runs plus 15 run differential. Because then they also got one of my off-season moves that I really liked for them, but I hated for us, even though I knew it was going to happen. They got Andrelton Simmons, who is coming around, I feel like, in the last couple of years as on the offensive side, but he's still, Gold Glove shortstop almost every single year. So he's a phenomenal defensive glove.
One of the best defensive shortstops in the league for sure.
Absolutely. So I don't even remember how many Gold Gloves he has, but
I think he's got 5 or 6.
Andrelton makes it look easy at short.
Well, because he had a couple in Atlanta, and then when he came over, he's pretty much won almost every year for us. Since maybe last year, I think was the 1 year excluded, but 3 or 4 years before that, we've had him. He's won a Gold Glove almost every single year with the Angels. So that was the thing. Angels have always had a couple of decent baseball players. Like the reason I'm an Angels fan, Torrey Hunter, when he went and signed there. I was kind of a Twins fan when I was a younger kid. Followed Hunter to Los Angeles, and man, he was 13-time Gold Glove winner. Phenomenal defensive talent. So
you like your defensive players, huh?
Oh, I love defensive players. Obviously baseball is a game all about offense, but you need to have your good defensive players. In any sport, that's pretty much just basic common sports logic. I don't need to fucking watch sports to tell you that. But
do you remember, Cole, when Torrey Hunter robbed Barry Bonds of a home run in the All-Star game?
I was watching the game live and I freaked the fuck out at 6 years old. Dude, loved it because that one was in Los Angeles or Minnesota. I can't remember which one. No, maybe was that the one at PNC?
Maybe.
I think it was in San Francisco because they made a big deal about it because the night before he had won the home run derby. Yeah, and it was like the first at-bat, first inning, and then, Torrey Hunter just fucking robbed him in center field. Yeah, I was freaking out because I was like, yeah, fuck you, Barry Bonds. Suck a dick, you steroid-taking asshole.
One of the coolest home run robberies I've seen.
Dude, because that's why I'm a Torrey Hunter fan. And so my first ever Twins game, we were back there in 1999. I think it was his second or third year with the Twins. They weren't all that good that year, but we just attended some random game in the afternoon against the Royals. And this guy hit a shot to just a little bit off center, just to the right in the right field, kind of where the bleachers started going in, but you could still have Rob space over there in the old Twin Stadium, if you remember it. And he just went up there, got it just like the one, like full 180 in the air. And I'm just like,
you just did that.
Yep. And then we went to the game the next day, ended up running into him, got an autograph grab from him, game over. I'm a fucking fan for life now. That is my favorite ball player of all time. Love Torrey Hunter because we went the next day and he was signing autographs with the Twins mascot and shit. And I freaked the fuck out. I was like, oh my God.
Just worked out great too. Now you got to be a fan of the Angels, Trout's whole career.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, seeing the rise, the meteoric rise, because he played good towards the end of his first year. Got sent back down, brought back up, and then when he came back up, his fucking 2013, I think it was, just started ripping it. And he was just instantly the greatest player in the game. Right away, he was number 2 in MVP voting in what should have been his rookie year against Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, and back then when he would steal so many bases too, we all know. Yeah, Trout just the ultimate player.
Oh, watching Trout play is fantastic. I still need to actually get to watch him play again. It's been years. Last time we tried to catch him. We ended up not going to a Twins game, and that worked out because he ended up sitting that day too. So last time I got to see Mike Trout play, I think was 15 at a Rockies game. So yeah, we need to catch the All-Star game this year, boys. We'll do a Sig in the Big live stream at the All-Star game until they take our phones away.
That would be lit.
Just kidding. Can't do that shit in 30,000 people. Yeah, that'd be fucking awesome. I'd bring a GoPro or some shit like that just to stream the fucking All-Star game from there. Give a shit if we have, nosebleed seats. It'd be awesome. Everything's a nosebleed seat in Denver, though.
I like what you did there.
Yep. So, but getting back on the topic here because we should probably get to wrapping up. It's getting close to all of our bedtimes here. Yankees, Dodgers, is that what everybody's kind of thinking for World Series here? Obviously, you can kind of wild card it with the Padres, maybe the Mets slip in, but it's kind of Yankees, Dodgers.
I'm going Mets in the NL.
Mets in the NL. That's your pick, huh?
I think with the Syndergaard rejoining the staff in the summer, the pitching will be enough in the playoff series. DeGrom's going to get you at least 2 games in the series against the Dodgers. So I'm going with the Mets. I think Lindor is really just going to bring everybody together, and hopefully we can see a big home run output from Pete Alonso, one of my favorite players to watch as well.
He is definitely an exciting player. I love the polar bear. But yeah, no, I'm actually on tap with Mike. I'm actually going to go Mets Padres is what I want to see. And what I think will ultimately happen. I don't think.
You mean in the NL Championship? Same league there.
Yeah, I think the NL Championship will be
okay. Gotcha.
Between the Mets and the Padres, and then out of the East, I think that if everyone can stay healthy and the additions that they made, and Juan Soto can show to be the player that he's supposed to be, I think that the Nationals could squeak in again.
Ooh, yeah, that's the thing when you have Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg as your 1-2, you're alive in any playoff series.
And if you get Josh Bell to be what he was those first years for the Pirates, I mean, that's some monster moves there.
Trey Turner in a contract year. What? Nats are a good under-the-radar team that could make some noise.
Watch out.
NL playoffs are going to be really exciting this year.
We still have to have word on what they expand to, right? Because they still haven't announced what they're expanding to for the playoffs, are they?
Oh, I haven't heard. I don't know if it's back to the 2019 and previous with the one wild card game. I don't know if we have any word on that. But yeah.
Let's take a look here. What you need to know about the MLB playoffs for 2021. I got to the playoffs. This is the MLB season. Okay, here. MLB and COVID. Rule changes. There's a couple of rules. Once again, rosters are back to 26 and will increase in 28. They can include like a taxi squad, I guess, of like 5 players to bring with them on the road for like COVID replacements, like last minute, but they can't like dress or anything. Oh, that's fucking weird. Let's see here.
They might not have announced it yet.
They haven't yet, no. So as of the article I read was just 3 days old, which I think something, if they announced it, it would come up, sooner. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys want to see? I would love to see.
I like the way last year's was.
I don't know. I don't feel like baseball is that talented. Like in the NBA, I feel like you are that talented across 16 teams to field a good playoff series, especially 1-8 or 2-7. Once in a while, they're usually, kind of outmatched, but they can provide good games. Like last year, the Magic beat the Bucks game 1 right away, kind of provide a little bit of excitement before the Bucks just ran the table against them. I don't think baseball is that deep to where, because like the Brewers didn't stand a chance against the Dodgers. Like last year, our upset of the year was the Marlins and Cubs, and that was unthinkable. That was a 3-6 upset. What I would like to see is a 6-team playoffs, kind of like either that or 7 maybe. Like have less teams get into the playoffs than what make it. Go 7-team, you can go with the new NFL format. 6-team, you can go with the old NFL format. You can have 1-2 get buys in a 6-team format, and then you have 3 play 6, 4 plays 5. High seed plays 2, low seed plays 1. I think like an old NFL playoff format would be fantastic because then you incentivize the top teams in the league. But then you're not sitting here like old school baseball where the pennant winner, which is the best regular season record, wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what would that first round would be 3-game series then? Or one?
It'd be interesting. I'd say best of three, and then you probably bring it to 5, and then 7.
Yeah, I like 7 that. Again. That's cool because it still keeps the integrity of winning your division. That should be everybody's goal at the beginning of the season. But still, 2 wild cards is probably the right number, I think.
Yeah, I'm right on with you. I think I just liked how exciting it was last year, just kind of have sports on all the time throughout that time. But again, we should have more going on around this time and more stuff to watch. So maybe that will conflict with TV schedules and stuff too.
Yeah, it was really unique to see baseball happen because remember, we watched a baseball game, an NBA Finals game, and a football game all on the same day.
It was awesome.
Fucking crazy. And what was it? There was a baseball game, a NBA playoff game, a football game, and then an NHL Stanley Cup game all on the same day too. And that one was crazy. I was just like, holy shit. Like, this is so much sports. So, like, as a gambler, man, the parlays I was playing, fucking crazy.
Yeah, that had to have been a first that all 4 of the major sports had a game on the same day.
Mm-hmm. One of the small good tokens that COVID gave us.
After taking it away for months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
It's like the politicians just take away your shit just to give it back to you in, like, bird feed amounts. All right, you can have a little bit of freedom, but not too much. It's like, all right, you could have a little bit of sports all at once and then take it fucking away again. Because what I remember about the moment sports came back is when the KBO opened up, the Korean Baseball Organization. They were the first fucking like major sport to open up. And one game, this team fucked around and had sex dolls in the stand and got fined like 30,000, like, what is it? It's not yen, it's Japan. Korean coin. I don't know. But yeah, they had like sex dolls, like all dressed up and shit. No, I was dying when that happened.
My favorite is how they would bat flip after hitting like a single. Like they celebrate after everything in that league. That was kind of exciting and funny to watch.
Yo, KBO is fun baseball.
It was a good time to watch sports when literally nothing else was on. It fucking sucked. When it was like, all right, well, I already watched Tiger King, so
you ain't wrong.
You already watched Tiger King. I'm just waiting for the next murder documentary to come out. We obsessed over Tiger King way too much. I did, because I watched it the first day it was on Netflix, and I binged it at work because we were so fucking bored. So I binged all of it, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, dude, this is getting crazier and no one believed me. I'm like, dude, this fucking documentary is literally batshit crazy. You can't make any of this stuff up.
All the way through 3 times.
Yeah, I was just like, dude, it's fucking nuts. And so like a week later, everybody's on, oh, Tiger King, and I'm like, right? Like it was. I just it just showed up on Netflix. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I guess I'll take a look at it. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is literally the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Still to this day is the craziest documentary series ever.
Carol Baskins.
That fucking bitch, Carol Baskins. That's who's responsible for COVID. And for the Dodgers and for the Astros. That's actually who's really behind the Astros cheating scandal. It wasn't Alex Cora. It wasn't AJ Finch.
It was that bitch, Carol
fucking
Baskins.
Bitch, Carol Baskins.
Killed her husband.
Waxed him.
God damn it. My brother played that song so much this last summer.
I Saw Tigers.
No. Okay, first off, that's a banger. That will never get old.
That could be a potential entry song to the
hold on. You know what? Let's play this here. Does Joe Exotic have these rights? I don't know. We'll get flagged down by the FCC, but I'll fucking deal with it later.
I wish we could
I
have.
don't think he's in jail. He ain't hearing nothing.
Well, yeah, all fucking double-digit listeners that listen to this show are really gonna be pissed off. Report us to the SEC. Would it be the SEC or the FCC? FCC. Yeah, because the SEC won't let me be. So let me see.
Big facts. That's what I
try to shut me down on MTV, but it feels so empty without me. All right, here we go. All right, let's bump this shit. How this didn't win a Grammy, I don't know.
Still could.
Tell all the hunters to lay down their guns. Tell them that the tiger needs a little bit of love.
This don't even sound like him.
Because it's not. I'll tell you,
The music video of that.
this guy could have been such an amazing celebrity if he had not been in prison. Are you fucking kidding? Just the shit that would have happened afterwards.
I saw Tiger saw me.
Such a powerful line.
Felt that.
See, this is how you can tell a man who loves his tigers.
He said he saw a tiger. I felt that.
Yeah, Tiger saw man.
Put it up there with the greatest hip hop lyrics of all time.
I mean, it's about as truthful as it gets.
Zero lies told.
I bet the truth was I saw a tiger and the tiger saw food. But
Hey, Paul, when are you going to put down a remix to this? I want to hear a rap version of I Saw a Tiger.
that'd be an absolute bop.
Fuck. Banger. That would put you on top. LLCJ will probably pop here, but if that one doesn't, doing an I Saw a Tiger remix, Paul. Just remember you heard it here first.
Just call it Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
We'll probably find Joe Exotic songs.
Time is a ticket.
It's just still disappointing. It's only 107. It must have gotten taken down when we put up. It's only 107,000 views.
What a sad, sad song.
That's a little shitty and just overdrawn at that point, but. All right, well, kicking her down with a banger here. It was either between that or Dick Down in Dallas.
Well, as we got to finish out, we do got to talk about a Kill Badu, though, if we're going to end a baseball note on people to watch.
Yeah, let's talk about a prospect list here. You guys go ahead and rattle off some your fun guys to watch.
You got to watch Akil Badu. You got to watch the Mercedes journeyman that's coming up for the White Sox. He just wants to hit some balls.
His last name is Mercedes. I don't know his first name. It's kind of a bigger guy with a number in the 70s or 80s.
I think he's 73.
He set a record, or is the first player since the year 1900 to start a season at 8 hits and his first 8 at-bats.
That's a Yerman Mercedes.
Mercedes, yep. Love the guy.
Yeah, no, I believe he added like 3 more hits today. Even he's at 12 hits total on the season already.
You can't stop Mercedes.
Nope. And then
Actually, as a car salesman, that's false. They break down all the fucking time. They're super expensive to repair. They're like a top 5 vehicle to repair. Just letting you know. But you can't stop this fucking Mercedes, all right? Because this rookie just keeps on Yerman. That's Yerman Mercedes.
then you got Akil Badu, who's absolutely just crushing baseballs like it's his job.
Any relation to Erica?
I think it's spelled differently. It's like Badoo. Not
Still same kind of impact, though.
Badu.
Just crushing it.
Yeah. He's literally mashing balls, walking games off. He is going to be electric to watch. And then, like we said, we brought up our boy Jazz Chisholm, who we've been a fan of for a little bit now. And then other ones to watch, I guess, would be Joe Adell, because he's finally on for his chance, and see how he does.
Thank you. Thank you for shouting out Joe Adell.
I'm a big fan.
I'm a huge fan of Joe Adell. Last year was kind of a little up and down, but I saw a lot of really good progress in the middle of the season. He struggled with some ankle injuries. I think it was ankle, if I remember right. I know he was injured towards the end of last year because, yeah, it was rough because I felt like he kind of started off slumping a little bit, was batting around in the 240s, and then he really kind of kicked it up around the All-Star game, and then, of course, that happens. But full season coming up here. We'll see what happens. We're kind of a little bit back to normal, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, since you did position players or hitters, I'll do 2 pitchers that we both saw a little bit. Both of these guys are top 10 prospects in the game. We saw a little bit last year. I think we actually both pitched in the playoffs even. But first is Sixto Sanchez for the Miami Marlins, power right-handed pitcher. We saw go against the Cubs, and I want to say he shut the Cubs down in that postseason series.
I think he's injured right now, though.
He is in fact injured, but he'll be back. It's not serious. He'll be back in a week.
Yeah, whenever I take the Marlins and MLB The Show, he comes back around May. Just saying.
And then the other one is Nate Pearson. Huge arm, big right-hander, can pump 100 miles an hour. Big guy, too.
Gas.
And he's with Toronto, so he's going to be groomed as the Blue Jays ace for years to come. He should be making his season debut here soon. But, yeah, Nate Pearson, Sixto Sanchez, if you can get a chance to watch those young guys pitch, they throw gas and they strike a lot of people out.
They're definitely some exciting throwers to watch for sure.
Fantastic. Well, guys, before we sign off, I guess we'll kick it to Mike Sig. I'll do the official send-off here. But Mike, anything you want to add before the end of the show?
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. Let me know if you ever needed anybody. And yeah, it's going to be a great baseball season.
I believe, Mike, will be seeing you a lot more than you think you will be on. And you love to talk sports, and you always got some great knowledge, so it's a pleasure to have you on. And we're glad to have you be the first guest of Sig and the Big. And with that being said, I mean, we're out.